Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry to bring you back from your break, but I think this is going to be quite an interesting session. Just a quick introduction. So, obviously, Andreas. I have spent the last 16 years working pretty much in Asia, and I've just moved to the Middle East. For EY, I look after our digital financial services business across all of MENA, and very excited to be here. And thanks for the opportunity. What I want to leave you with in the time that I've got is three main things. One is, I know you've talked a lot about digital transformation in the morning, but what I want to emphasize is, from my perspective, digital is not a new concept, but the opportunities that it creates in the market is new. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for you specifically to take advantage of that. Secondly, I think we're one of the best global markets in the UAE and the GCC more broadly in terms of digital mobility and emerging affluent customer segments to maximise that. And then the last point I want to raise, and I'll spend a little bit more time on this, is what are the things you can do to get started? So we work with some of the leading global brands, whether it's retail, luxury goods, airlines, financial services, and we work with them on a couple of specific things to help them get started on their digital transformation. So I wanted to share a few of those tips and tricks with you, just to get you thinking about where do we take this, what's the next step. Obviously, we don't need to go very far to look at what's happening in the market more broadly around digital and how important it is. So if you look at Dubai and some of the initiatives that are coming out, whether it's the 3D printing offices or the investment in drones or some of the autonomous driving investments that are being made by the RTA, Dubai certainly, as part of the UAE, sees digital innovation as a really critical part of the future and the future competitiveness of the country as well. So, from a public sector perspective, all the way through to private sector, whether small businesses or large corporate clients, we're working with those clients, and we see that this is a top two or top priority area for the market. So I'm not sure how many of you have seen this. Obviously, this is the first 3D office in the world that was set up just behind Emirates Towers. For the market, this really creates a great opportunity to create a template around future development and some of the work that's being done around this in terms of what are some of the productivity and cost benefits around using this sort of methodology for bigger construction sites and more more specific residential opportunities is quite significant. And we don't need to go far as well when we think about the role that drones are going to play in our society. Not just about delivering products, but also how they enable us to live a better life in terms of being able to do things in a more effective and efficient way. So this is an initiative that's just recently kicked off as well, and I think there's been about 1,000 submissions for this particular program, and the UAE government thinks that the total size of the market for drones is going to be about $10 billion. So it's really about how do we use robots and robotics to really empower our lives in every day. And most of you would have seen this as well, but the RTA has recently signed a deal with Tesla to support the rollout of autonomous driving vehicles. So there will be about 200 of those launched in the market by 2020. And the target for that overall is to get 25% of all commutes to become autonomous, renewable commutes by 2030. So this is a really important initiative by the government as well. Now, I'm just going to flick through a few of these just to give you some key facts, and then I want to spend a bit more time on, so what does that mean for you? Where do you take it? Obviously, this is having a huge impact on corporate clients that we work with. So if you look at the Fortune 500, 50% of those corporations since 2000 have been disrupted based on digital. And we would then bring it back to GCC and UAE. That level of disruption is going to be quite significant in the next 2 to 3 years in particular. I'm going to skip through this one. You'll get this in your handouts anyway. But so if I look at the GCC market, we think about the type of consumers in this market. So a huge emerging affluent segment, very well-educated, very mobile, very digitally engaged, access to smart devices, social networks, they buy, they shop, they research online. This is a great opportunity for you to connect in with those customers, or use different tools to connect in with your existing customers through these channels. So I'm going to spend a bit of time talking about that in a minute. You might have heard a few quotes this morning, but I really like this one, because what we find in the market is the core of digital transformation for us is really about two things. One, it's about understanding your customers. Digital is just another enabler for you to deliver a better experience, a better service to your customers. So at the heart of it, it's really about understanding who your customers are, what they value, and how digital can play a role. The second one is about how you execute that. We spend a lot of time with our clients helping them change the way that they do things, new ways of working. Rather than spending 12 months to do a strategy and do some design work, we really bring it back to what can we do in a week, in 2 weeks? How can we develop a digital prototype that we can take to market in a very short period of time? So first one around customer insights, second one around ability to execute. When you look at the GCC market, and the research that we've done points to 4 main drivers of experience for customers. The first one is being connected. So customers are telling us today that their experience is based on a multitude of different brands. So if I'm on Amazon, or if I have an Apple experience in the store, that experience frames my expectation that I have with other companies that I deal with. So it's really about having a connected, consistent experience. Second one is around relevance. So customers are telling us that they don't just want to have a relationship with a brand that helps them with a specific transactional need. They want brands to help them achieve something in their life. Third one is around engagement. Customers want to provide real-time feedback on their experience, and a lot of our clients are investing quite significantly in this. So if you go to a branch, for example, and you have an interaction at a bank, you should be getting a real-time feedback request straight after that meeting or straight after that appointment. So that's a big focus. And last one around innovation. So we're in this generation at the moment where we're rolling out the 6 to 12 month product design. So whether you look at Apple or Samsung, there's a huge thirst around new products, new services. So that's coming through consistently in the market. One of the myths about this is when we talk about digital, a lot of my clients say, well, does that mean we need to spend $10 million and we need to be the leader in the market and we need to do all these, out of the box sort of things? And it doesn't necessarily mean that. It means that you need to think about what are the specific digital investments you want to make that deliver an exceptional customer experience for those customers that you're targeting. So it doesn't mean you need to be a leader, but it means that you should be thinking about how do you become a close follower? How do you take on board all the learnings that all the other organizations are doing in the market and take advantage of that and follow that quickly? And a lot of the brands that we work with and some of the leaders in the market have a deliberate close follower strategy. So they're not deliberately trying to lead the market, but they're trying to follow and learn from what's happened before. But at the heart of all of this, it's about being customer-centric. And there's a couple of principles that I want to talk about. One, if you've made a decision that you want to focus on digital as a way to deliver your promise in the market and to deliver the right experience for your customers, you need to have that support from your leadership team. You need to think about how you're reallocating your investment to make that happen. And you also need to think about the ways in which you want to deliver that in the business. So I'll explain all 3 of those in a little bit more detail in the next couple of slides. So as I said before, we work with some of the leading brands in the market, and these are typically the things that they do really well to help them get through their first steps around digital transformation. The first one is about being purpose-led. So the difference between companies that do this really well and those that are doing it as an experiment, it really comes down to whether or not they think of digital as a way of doing business versus a project. That really comes down to the crux of it. So when we work with clients where they see that digital is an enabler for their business vision, where the executive team is committed and they can see how implementing new digital solutions helps them be more relevant in the market, and it's not just about doing something symbolic like setting up a lab or implementing an app or something like that. Where they see it as a significant driver of their business vision, that's when it's typically a success. Second one is around customer end-to-end. Where this is a success is where you look at the overall customer experience. You don't just focus on the first bit of that experience, which is about, as I said, an app or a great website. It's about looking at all those moments that matter for the customer all the way through their experience. So typically, if you look at banking as an example, the front-end experience might be pretty cool and snazzy and very user-centric, but once you get into the machine of the organization, then it becomes very very complex and high effort in terms of being able to navigate. So how do you think about that end-to-end customer journey and look at all the different moments that matter for the customer, from the time they become aware of a need all the way through to when they decide they want to leave and try someone else. We're a bit obsessed in this market, I think, with perfectionism. So we try things so many times until we get the 100% proof solution. And I think one of the things that we need to change as well is about how do we accept the close to perfect. How do we accept the fact that we might fail at some of these things? We might try and fail fast. And so a lot of the work that we do with our clients in the market is about helping them design the minimal viable product. Right? How do you do that in a way that you get something in the market where you can test it and iterate it in a very short period of time rather than spending 6-12 months trying to get your perfect solution? And in the meantime, your competitors have already jumped ahead of you and provided something in the market that's a lot more relevant. The other key thing for us is about time boxing this. So when we work with our clients, what we try and do is say, look, if you had a window of 2 weeks, what could you do in that 2 weeks? What could you produce and get ready as a minimal viable product to test with your customers? Because we know if we had 6 months, we'll use all 6 months. If we had 12 months, we'll use all 12 months. So how do we package this up in a way that really focuses effort and investment around this? And this is one of the last points I want to raise, but co-creation. So how often do you actually ask your customers for feedback around your products or services? And I'm not talking about a yearly survey or a visit, but how often do you say, well, look, if you could have anything, if you could have a specific set of options within the product that we can offer you, what would that be? And so we think there's a huge opportunity to bring customers into the co-creation and also to bring your staff into that as well. The best stories or the best examples of this is where you have customers in the room with your frontline staff, with your operations staff, with your senior leaders, and you're actually creating stuff together. That's the best possible scenario to get the most relevant proposition. And the last one I want to mention is the whole Google concept. Essentially, this is where it comes from. So the test, learn, and iterate. How do we learn from our customers, develop a minimal viable product, test that in the market, be prepared to fail, learn from that, and then iterate that on an ongoing basis. So this is really, I guess, from our perspective, the biggest change in ways of working for our clients. How do you accept the fact that you might fail 50% of the time? But based on that fail rate, how do you learn from that and then use those insights to move ahead with confidence? So I've rushed through a lot of stuff. You'll get all these slides anyway for the handout. But the one thing I want to leave you with is, for us, it's really about what sort of perspective are you bringing to this? If you're looking at digital in terms of, look, it's a trend and it's here today, it'll be gone tomorrow, and we might do a few things here and there just to show that we're relevant. If you think about it that way, this won't be a successful way to win. If you think about your business strategy and you think about what your customers are really looking for and what they value, and you see that digital can play a really important role in helping you deliver that, that's when this can become a really successful formula. So then the final point I want to raise is, if you don't know where to start, talk to people, talk to experts in the market, whether they're digital marketing experts or transformation experts, but talk to people in the market. There's lots of people out there that'll give you advice for free. So learn from that and access all those people to help you get started. So thanks very much for your time, and I appreciate it.